And welcome to Cold War Radio, ladies and gentlemen, live from our home base, WAAR. We are America Radio, your number one source for government and political talk anywhere, coming to you from the Steel City Resistance Studio in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr., deep down in the broadcast bunker, and from Ice Station North Studio, somewhere on the Norwegian Sea. Come in, Radio Norway.
Good evening, Hutch, and good evening to our lovely audience. And indeed, it is the Ice Station North here, because it is absolutely freezing. But the sun is shining, there's lots of snow, and soon we'll be on Easter vacation.
There you go. Follow me on Spreaker, ladies and gentlemen. Like the Facebook page, facebook.com/Cold War Radio 22. You can catch the show on your Roku via Blueberry, or you can go to YouTube after the show, the405media.com, iHeartRadio, and the only two ways, actually three ways to get it live, or you can go to Spreaker, you can go to steelcityresistance.com and get Spreaker from there, or you can get the Cold War Radio app free in your app store. The email is hutch@steelcityresistance.com. The Cold War Radio patron hotline, 412-567-1460. The chat room's up on Spreaker. Please go to steelcityresistance.com. You can catch the show notes links there and become a Cold War Radio patron. Also, the research room is available there for just loads of information. If you want to send mail, just re-up my rent. It's Hutch Bailey Jr., P.O. Box 96022, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania 15226.
You are listening to Cold War Radio.
All right, now some things just never go away. Norway, I tell you, this guy, I don't know why he ever thought that he had a shot at anything other than an Ohio governorship. But John Kasich is back, and every time he opens his mouth, he becomes less and less of a conservative and less of a threat to anything. I don't see how he could get reelected as governor of Ohio at this point.
I mean, what a joke. And yeah, he was one of the 17 original candidates for the 2016 election. And boy, can you imagine that guy in the White House?
No.
In the Oval Office?
I don't see how he lasted so long. Now that I think of it, he was toward the end, he was still in.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how that happened.
And when you listen to this, I mean, well, I guess you could make the point that President Trump, for instance, wants to ban bump stocks, and you know, he's not Second Amendment on a blank check, but still, when you listen to Kasich, it beggars belief. I mean,
you're right.
There's the definition of rhino.
Absolutely. And you know, the thing is that the shame of it all is, you know, the bump stock thing, everybody clutched their pearls and everything. But when you look at the reason behind the Second Amendment, we should have never banned automatic weapons.
Absolutely. And the Second Amendment was put in there by the divine, I would claim, foresight of the founding fathers, who realized that the state could get out of control and the people needed to take back power and restore power to the people. And that is the reason why the Second Amendment is there. So if you look at what kind of weapons the state have.
Exactly.
At least when, as far as it goes to handguns, the civilian population should be able to arm themselves with the equal kind of weapons.
Like the musket was at the time. It was the most deadly weapon that there was. People always go back to that.
Yeah, and today a machine gun is the deadliest weapon as far as handguns go. So in reality, if you should follow the letter of the law as it was intended, people should be able to own machine guns.
Yeah, thank you, Al Capone. We appreciate that. So anyway, let's take a listen to a true pre-Trump definition of a Republican caving on anything they can.
Make an appearance in New Hampshire early next month. Governor Kasich is joining us now from his home state of Ohio. And Senator, I know you love discussing your political
Governor,
future.
what are you criticizing me right off the bat? I'm not a senator.
So sorry, Governor, of course. I know you love talking about your political future so much, but we're going to wait a moment. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. I want to start, of course, with what we saw over the weekend. Hundreds of thousands of young people marching across the country yesterday in support of stricter gun laws. Do you think the Republicans should be worried that if Congress isn't able to do something on gun reform, that they're going to face a big backlash from these same crowds at the ballot box in September?
Well, look, we've already seen what the public thinks. We saw an election in Pennsylvania where the people are basically saying they can't stand what's happening in Washington. And yeah, I really do believe that. I think people do want changes here. And look, I think there's three kinds of people who are involved in this gun debate. Those that want no changes on guns, believe me, they're there, and
yes,
they're strong.
We are.
And those people that think there ought to be significant changes, even while we protect the Second Amendment. And the third group are a bunch of politicians who are afraid of their own shadows. So the key is for these young people, followed by so many other people. I saw Paul McCartney was at one of these rallies. Somebody told me Lady Gaga. I wish I'd have been at that when I could have met her. But the fact of the matter is that it's a massive effort here, and it reminds me of some of the protests that have changed the people in office. But they got to keep it up. If they don't keep it up, those that want no change will just sit on their hands. They will never come out and say anything. They will just try to stall until the steam comes out of the kettle. And the fact is that we can keep the pressure on. We're not going to change everything overnight, but you can get significant changes, and I hope so. And if they do not bring about change, I think people should be held absolutely accountable at the ballot box. I have no question about it.
Republican Governor John Kasich, Ohio. I mean,
and I saw Arthur Dunman, in the former Secret Service man we have in the chat room, has said Kasich couldn't command a boat in the tunnel of love.
I'll tell you, he's something. He's embarrassing.
Right.
He's totally embarrassing.
Yeah, totally. And this is a lame attempt to kissing up to the younger voters. And what Kasich really should have done was to go out and take a closer look at the education system, because when you have kids that believe this propaganda that is being churned out by the left, there is something gone really wrong in the education system.
I call it an indictment. I mean, this is what you get when you have union-dominated government schools. These
Absolutely.
Kids don't have a clue. They have no idea.
Absolutely, and
history. And they're stupid.
Come again?
And they're stupid. Why would you lobby against protecting yourself when you just got shot up?
Absolutely, it really puts things into perspective. I mean, if you had teachers, let's say you had teachers at that high school that were armed, that were trained at using firearms, they would have taken down that shooter in no time to protect their kids. No doubt about it. And but it's I believe, and we talked about this. We even had an entire show about this a while back. That the education system, there's something basically wrong with the education system. And History Bee, which is one of our regular listeners, she told me that they get this magazine printed by the left, and it's really well done, and it's stuffed with propaganda, and she just throws it in the garbage can, which all teachers should do. But no, they're feeding kids with this insane nonsense, and it's a complete lack in understanding of the Second Amendment. And I'm a Norwegian.
It's not.
I feel I know more about the Constitution of the United States.
It's not a mistake, and it's not a misunderstanding. It's a mission. They're on a mission.
Absolutely.
This is
but it's still a complete misunderstanding of what makes America America.
Right, but they don't like that. They don't like America the way America is. That's the problem. If you ever see liberals, they're never happy. They're always squealing and always yelling and cursing and trying to tear people down. They hate this country. They think we stole it.
And you know, this demonstration, March for Our Lives, or whatever they called it in Washington, do you think those kids paid out of their own pocket to get there, to get transportation, food, etc.? Follow the money. That's all I'm saying. Follow the money.
No, you're absolutely right. Let me just check something here. Make sure that I just did an update of my system here, and somebody's telling me my phone's not on. No, my phone's on. I don't know what happened. Try again. All right, let's go to L.A., the destruction of inner cities, actually major cities that are controlled by Democrats. The L.A. City Council, I'm sure you've seen, ladies and gentlemen, the videotapes. One came out on Christmas time, around Christmas time, and a couple other ones came out after that. But L.A. City Council may operate tent encampments for 34,000 homeless. That's the way that L.A. City Council, in the heart of the left, is going to solve the problem that they created with homeless people. That 34,000, that's an indictment of the Democrat Party. I mean, it's like Detroit. Detroit was one of the most magnificent cities in the world in the 1950s, and if you look at it now, it looks like post-war Berlin. It's just a crying shame. Let's welcome Carrie to the show. Good evening, Carrie. What's on your mind?
Well, I just wanted to talk about that supposed gun protest thing. Folks, when you have these puppets come out, like Kasich, they have run out of road. This is over and done with. It is completely over and done with. They are now trying to get people who have seen the truth, who know the truth, to believe yet another lie. The simple fact that they're threatening now. They're telling us, okay, hello, these little high school kids are going to come out here and they're going to vote you out of office if you don't give us what we want. Well, if you have so much power, then just go take it. That's just it. They don't have the power. We're supposed to trust kids who go around and eating Tide Pods as candy. We're thinking that they know the truth, that they can see the light. And Norway, you were correct. It is. We are seeing now the total, complete lack of teaching that has gone on, and how deep and how much programming has gone on, and we are tired of it, and they're being outed. So what's going to happen? Well, exactly what I said is going to happen. The laws are going to be applied. People are going to be held accountable. The media, as we know it, is not going to be around much longer, because all we're hearing is the lying from them. Every time we turn around, we're being told that the Constitution is wrong, the First Amendment is wrong, and that's what keeps them going. And that's what they're supposed to be there for.
They hate this place.
Keeping these people in check.
They hate the place. There's no question. I mean, when you look at the iconic Sunday evening magazine of 60 Minutes, going from what it was when we were younger to Jerry Springer now. I mean, you got a problem. It's their credibility's shot. You got ESPN talking politics and people kneeling at NFL games. I mean, they've infiltrated all these places, but it's going to blow up in their face.
It is blowing up in their face. When you have, I was watching some some stuff about Illuminati and everything. And when you have street, hardened, hardcore, real rapper thugs who are calling out these gay guys, calling them out simply because they're like, oh, you're not real. You are a fake. That's when you operate by the law of the jungle, you get eaten by the jungle. Once you found out that you're not as big and as bad as you profess to be, you are a fake, you are a fraud, you are a counterfeit. Folks, that's what you're seeing going on right now. They are devouring themselves. They've run out of ammunition. Now they're hiding behind children. Last thing, Mr. Bailey, that was not a gun protest. That was a declaration of the lack of parenting that has gone on in this country for far too long. It's time.
That's a good point.
That we man up. It's time for parents to be parents. It's time. It's time. You can't stop this, folks. This started as soon as then candidate Trump announced that he was running for office of president, and they had a cow when he got sworn in. You can't stop this, folks. It's over and done with. Just start doing. Thank you for your time, Mr. Bailey.
Thanks for calling, Kerry. All right, so let's move on. I think Norway, another thing that I thought of, and I had seen somebody mention this with this children's march. I remembered something that happened early in 2008. And then we came out, we heard the proclamation from Barry Obama that said, Michelle and I so inspired by young people marching. And I want to play a clip from 2008 that chills me to the bone.
We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well-funded.
Now, make no mistake about it, these children, quote-unquote children, are not being educated. They're being trained. They are trained. If you can get that many people...
They're trained, and they're indoctrinated.
Exactly. So,
and you're right. This clip from 2008, it is bone-chilling when you know what communism has done through history. And the fantastic thing about this speech was that it was held in the National Archives in front of the actual copy of the Constitution of the United States. And when you're talking about taking away, you're basically taking away law and order in the nation and replacing it by Obama's communist cadre.
And they're all young and children, and it makes you think of the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia.
Exactly, the Khmer Rouge, the what do you call it?
Pol Pot and the Return to Year Zero.
Exactly.
I mean, and it's any number of countries in Africa.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is absolutely bone chilling when you hear a speech like that. But the funny thing is that when you take that speech and you look at what's going on, we mentioned just the 34,000 homeless, the camps, LA City, etc. You have all these cities and counties that are harboring illegal immigrants. They are in direct contravention with the Constitution of the United States.
Absolutely. And
so what Obama is saying here is actually contradicting the policy he is now inspiring in these cities that are contradicting the Constitution of the United States.
I agree. I'm only going to talk about this one time, and that's it. But if you saw and I didn't see it, I saw pictures of it. But if you saw pictures of, or if you watched the 60 Minutes interview with the aged stripper and the president, or about the president, and you looked at her eyes, man, her eyes were so dilated. They were almost as big as her iris. They were huge. And if you've ever been in a TV studio, which I have, you can barely see in those things. I mean, there's so much light, so much Klieg lighting that there's no way that she wasn't on drugs.
Absolutely. And it's okay. May I pull an anecdote on that? Because you have a berry, or actually a herb from ancient times that was called Atropa belladonna, and actually atropine is a derivative of this plant, and atropine is used pre-surgery.
Plus, it's a nerve agent antidote.
And that too, you use it in the battlefield against, at least first and second generation nerve gases. But the hookers in ancient times, they used Atropa belladonna berries, which they dripped into their eyes to make their pupils dilate to seem more sexy. So, I'm not speculating here, but I'm just pulling this as an anecdote. I just came to think of it, because you were absolutely right. When you were in a TV studio, your pupils will automatically try to constrict,
small as
because
they can.
because there's so much light. So.
No, on a real tragic note, U.S. gunmaker Remington files for bankruptcy protection, and their parent company Remington Outdoors, which also manufactures Marlins and Bushmasters. So that's a hit, man. I hope they come out of bankruptcy all right. I think what they did, they maybe didn't realize the effect of politics on gun purchases, and they continued to over-manufacture after Obama was on his way out. And when the president was elected, their sales went down 30%.
Oh, that's bad. That's really bad. I actually I have two favorite types of ammunition, and Remington is one of the types of ammunition for hunting, and the other is the Norwegian Nittedal, which is really good too. So I hope they keep producing their ammunition at least.
I hope they come out on the other side okay. I mean, that's an iconic brand. That's the best shotgun.
Absolutely.
I shouldn't say that's the best. That's the most popular shotgun, the Remington 870. I have one. They're great. Anyway, let's move on to some of the other news, and let's talk a little bit about Bolton-For-Mcmaster, a masterful selection. I think a lot of people are nervous because the man is clearly outspoken when he feels something. But let's take a listen here.
We go to McMaster, and we bring in John Bolton. This is bringing in Tojo. He said to them, no more stupid wars. Now he brings in the godfather of stupid wars, John Bolton.
I think the president is assembling a war cabinet. To take a war to Bob Mueller, he's got Joe DeGeneva. To take a trade war to China, he's got Larry Kudlow. And now to actually have a real war, he's got John Bolton. And the only question is, will we find ourselves in a military conflict vis-a-vis North Korea or Iran, or both?
If the foreign policy goes in the direction that he has advocated, we are going to be in for a very rough, if not calamitous, time ahead.
Yeah, this is a bucking bronco.
This man has called for preemptive strikes on North Korea and Iran for the nuclear programs. What is going on with this guy? I find him to be dangerous, and it's put me into a state of anxiety today, frankly.
Oh, every day it's hysteria, and that's not all. Take a look at how tinfoil conspiracy theorist Rachel Maddow reported this on her show. Joining us now, American Conservative Union Chairman Matt Slapp and former White House Press Secretary, Fox News contributor Ari Fleischer.
The American people see through this. The American people, they have air in their lungs. They feel hope. They like the agenda. And this is something that gives the American people hope that someone's going to stand up and fight.
A lot has gotten done. Nobody ever talks about it.
And I'll tell you, because I know John Bolton, with John Bolton at NSA, even more is about to be done. John Bolton is one of the smartest, sharpest, savviest operators in Washington. And he is a true north. He's a principled conservative. And I welcome John Bolton into this administration.
Yeah, me
I love
too.
to hear the Democrats talk about they're in a state of anxiety. Have they ever not been? And maybe they should move there.
I think the president's policies have been very similar to those of Ronald Reagan, of peace through strength. I think that's the best way for the country to proceed, and that's certainly been a summary of my policy for quite some time.
And John Bolton will formally take over as National Security Advisor on April 9th, and he will certainly have a lot on his plate right from the start. In May, President Trump will again decide the fate of the Iran nuclear deal. In that same month, he's slated to meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un for negotiations over their nuclear weapons.
Well, I can tell you one thing. John Bolton knows what time it is all over the world.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. When I heard the news, I said, yes, finally, someone that's, I mean, this is a wrecking ball, but it's an intelligent wrecking ball. And McMaster, I never, ever could wrap my head around McMaster as a pick. But John Bolton, he's got my vote.
I hadn't heard of McMaster since high school.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You know, this guy, he when I did start looking into him, I couldn't believe it. I mean, the guy totally wants to separate Islam from the violence that's occurring in the world. And how can you be in that position and feel that way? I just don't. I mean, okay, he went to Iraq. Iraq was secular at the time, but look at it now. You know, absolutely. I mean, it's like, come on. The guy, I'd like to know, because you got to look at it this way. When Donald Trump came into office, there's all these positions you have to fill. How's he going to know somebody to be the national security advisor? He doesn't have anybody in his circles that fit that bill. So he had to take somebody's advice. And I'd like to know who gave him the advice for McMaster, because there you probably find the leaks.
That's a really interesting question. That's a very interesting question. I would like to know that too, for sure. And you're absolutely right. I mean, when you're in the construction business, building buildings and hotels and what have you not, the shrewd war master and security expert might not be in your inner circles, like you say. But finally, we got John Bolton, and I think this is a magnificent pick. And just by the reaction we heard here in the clip from the left is a very good indication that this is the right pick, because
no question.
the more they scream and complain, the better the pick it is.
And if you remember, the left was heaping praise on him when he was selected. I mean, this was the guy that was going to keep Donald Trump sane. In other words, this was the guy that was going to make sure that the Iran deal stayed in place. And everything else, you know, make sure no peace came to Israel or nothing.
Yeah, and I think John Bolton, the Ayatollah, he knows Ayatollah Khamenei. He knows what time it is. John Bolton has been, and this is why John Bolton has been proclaimed a hawk, because he is relentless. Against Iran, and I know that he will call the deal for what it is. It's pure garbage, and in fact, the way I see the situation, and I've studied the Iran deal and studied the science behind it, how far Iran is with their nuclear program. And I believe that we are beyond the point of zero breakout, which means that I actually believe they got nuclear weapons. The question now is going to be how big is their arsenal going to get before someone stops them,
and how is the delivery system and the accuracy of that?
Absolutely.
Let's switch gears from SarahCarter.com. Questions still surround Robert Mueller's Boston past. I had forgot all about this, but Mueller's actions while in Boston as a criminal prosecutor raised questions about his role in one of the FBI's most controversial cases involving the use of a confidential informant. And, you know, we've heard the president directing his tweets at Mueller, and you hear the Democrats and Roosterhead, defending Mueller. But you got to ask yourself, why does the Mueller team have 13 hardened Democrats, some big crooked Hillary supporters, and 0 Republicans? I mean, another Democrat recently added, does anyone think this is fair? And yet there's no collusion? I mean, Trump's tweets on Mueller appeared to some Republicans and Democrats to be veiled threats to fire Mueller. Those lawmakers warned the president that it would be the beginning of the end of his presidency if Trump fired the special counsel. That was Lindsey Graham, by the way, that said that. They also criticized Trump's attorney, John Dowd, for suggesting over the weekend that the Mueller probe should end. Ty Cobb, the president's personal attorney, reassured lawmakers on Monday that the president does not plan to fire Mueller, but Dowd is not alone. McCabe's firing should raise serious questions as to where Mueller's investigation is going. Mueller's past involvement in cases casts a very different light on the former FBI director than the one painted by his proponents in the media, says David Schoen, a civil rights and defense attorney. Schoen has been outspoken on the special counsel and criticized Mueller's top attorney, Andrew Weissman's involvement in the investigation, as reported. Let's listen to Sarah Carter on the Hannity Show.
Well, I think what we see here, and this is the point that I hope people understand about these cases in the past. This is what is predictable in the future, and I think the president obviously wants to talk to Mueller. He knows he's innocent. He wants to tell him what he knows. But this is the problem, Sean. All you have to do is look at these cases in the past. Innocent people ended up either pleading guilty or they were found guilty. They spent their life in prison, and then they had to wait until they were exonerated. There is a very serious moment here where the president has to take a step back and think about what he's going to do, because there were cases. We saw it with the Weissman case in New York, and we see it with the case in Boston.
But politically, he can't, Sarah, because the media will run that. This is the most corrupt team ever put together in any investigation I've ever heard of.
Well, it is, but and what you're looking at right now is an extraordinary, visceral hate by people that want to either see this president impeached or drag his name through the mud. And I think that at this point in time, all that we can do is continue to push the stories out, continue to push the truth out, so that the American people understand what's going on, and more importantly, so that the president and the administration understand what's going on. But there has to be a very serious consideration for what's happened in the past and what could possibly happen with the special counsel.
All our media call it, he's beyond reproach. That's a total crock.
Well, when he was in Boston, Mueller was an assistant U.S. attorney in the U.S. Attorney's Office and then became the acting U.S. attorney from 86 through 87. And it was Mueller's actions during that time that raised questions about his role in one of the FBI's most controversial cases involving the FBI's use of a confidential informant that led to the convictions of 4 innocent men who were sentenced to death for murders that they did not commit. And then also the Bureau's role in covering up the FBI's longtime dealings with mobster and informant James Whitey Bulger. Now, I don't know if you guys know who Whitey Bulger is, but he was the kingpin of the Irish mob in Boston. And this guy had an FBI handler named John Conley that literally let Whitey Bulger get away with murder so he could tackle the Italian mob. I mean, it was to the fact where they were telling Bulger, or Bulger was telling the FBI what the Italians were doing and then going in and taking advantage of that himself, or taking people out. It was horrible. And this special agent, John Conley, it was later discovered that Conley went out of his way to protect Bulger and aided the crime boss against investigations being conducted by the Boston PD and the Massachusetts State Police. According to reports at the time, Conley would inform Bulger of wiretaps and surveillance being conducted by law enforcement. So this is all right under Mueller's nose, Norway. I mean, this is something that's absolutely ridiculous. over the weekend, this was arguing against against getting rid of Mueller and how outstanding Mueller is. Over the weekend, Representative Trey Gowdy, chairman of the House Oversight Committee, was one of those members. If you have an innocent client, Mr. Dowd, act like it, Gowdy told Fox News Sunday, who added Mueller's probe should continue. Like Gowdy, Senator Lindsey Graham also stressed that there should be a second special counsel, telling this reporter, the system is working. We should let it work. Firing Mueller would be a grave mistake. But Shane disagrees with Gowdy and Graham and Hutch Bailey Jr., saying it's a central tenet of the criminal justice system that one may always challenge the integrity of the investigation, prosecution, and it's reckless for a member of Congress to suggest otherwise. Shane and the former FBI official disagree with Graham. The former FBI official who worked on counterintelligence cases said that if the foundation of the investigation isn't based on credible, solid evidence, then Mueller's investigation is one in search of a crime, and that is not what you want, and that is not how it should be done.
Absolutely. And I mean, when you look at the foundation, which should be credible, solid evidence that there was, and I mean, even collusion. Collusion, as far as I understand American law, is that collusion is not a crime.
That's me and you working together. That's what collusion is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you would have to find evidence that there was actually a criminal conspiracy, not collusion, conspiracy. If you had evidence of conspiracy between Trump and the Russians, which at face value would be really stupid because Trump is a capitalist and the Russians are still very much entrenched in the communist ideologies.
I'm still stunned.
But if there was a criminal conspiracy, then of course. An investigator. I'm not saying Mueller because that guy is really dirty. But of course there should be an investigation. But there is nothing. What we have here is actually a conspiracy between the Democratic Party, the Clintons, and Russian operatives. That's what we have here, and that's what's not being investigated.
No, and you have to have a crime. I mean, the statute that creates a special counsel says there has to be a crime first. So what's the crime? Tell me what the crime is.
There is no crime. So why is there still a counsel?
I can't believe it. It still stuns me to this day that this much of America is so dumb. Just on the capitalism side.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right, Hutch. This is yet another great indication why America has been dumbed down, is why Americans agree to this. I mean, there should be a million march on Washington to stop this insane waste of taxpayers' money and time and resources, and start focusing on what is really going on. And in that respect, I must say I've just gotten hold of Peter Schweizer's brilliant book and started reading it, Secret Empires, and it is, so far, it's been a fantastic read. And I mean, that is the kind of things you should be looking into, the real corruption where big political players, not them, not their spouses, but their children and their best friends are given not millions, but billions of dollars of benefits.
That's true.
For favors in return. That's where the investigation should be. That's where the fourth power of state, as the media is called, should be focusing their attention. But no, they are propping up 13 democratic shills and this horrible human being, Mueller. In this, you know what, Hutch? It absolutely pisses me off.
Yep.
I get so mad when I see how America is wasting time and money and frankly talent, because Trump is a really talented man, let the man do his job and make America great again.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, the federal government, at least the Border Patrol, is continuing California's Civil War attempt. The Border Patrol is fighting back from Front Page Magazine. This is one of the smartest things I've heard in a long time. U.S. officials are refusing to hand over criminal aliens to California. The U.S. Border Patrol is reportedly fighting back against California's openly seditious statewide sanctuary laws by refusing to hand over illegal aliens with felony warrants to police in California. It makes perfect sense according to the law of unintended consequences. It is an appropriate, tactically innovative way to counter California's ridiculous laws that seek to nullify federal immigration legislation. I think that is one of the smartest things I've heard in a long time.
Absolutely. And I must say that this this is really following the law of unintended consequences, because California is only to blame for this themselves, and luckily there are good Republicans in California trying to fight back this. You never hear about them in the media, but California is still the biggest Republican state in the United States in number of Republicans. And it must be absolutely heart-wrenching for them to see how the Democratic majority is abusing power and is openly in defiance of federal law.
Absolutely, and it's something that this omnibus bill hurt efforts a little bit there, but that's all right. There's always going to be patriots out there. I think they took a little bit too long to step up, but that's okay. Whatever we can get now, we need former FBI agents like in the last story, and we need everybody that loves this country to get on board. It's time to fight. These people, the nails are out, the claws are out with these communists, and they're going to. I heard a report of a guy running for sheriff that said we'll kill people to take their guns away. It's just getting to a point where laying back is not going to work. You can try, but it's not really going to work. And they're fighting back in Norway.
Yeah, that's a great story. And actually, now we have. I would say this is maybe the first positive sign of a change of policy. The really stunning thing about this is that the Liberal Party is actually on board in this present proposal to ban full face whales, Islamic whales, and a former political buddy of mine, Jan Tore Sanner, which is Minister of Education and Integration, is one of the guys who had the idea to propose this, and it's one small step in the right direction to ban full face whales, because if anything, it completely stops communication between two people, so that you can't see their faces and you can't identify them for legal purposes. And lo and behold, if you should arrest someone based on you can't even arrest people because you don't recognize their faces. So this is a very surprising but a very positive move in the right direction. And if it were up to me, I would completely ban the hijab. I would ban Islamic headscarves, because they're really a signal of oppression. They signal that we are kafirs. We are the infidels, and the hijab is a hate symbol, just like the garments of the KKK. And you don't see people in full KKK uniform marching down the streets. So why should you see people wearing hijabs marching down the streets, which is a clear symbol of 1,400 years of Islamic oppression.
I saw a lady in full 100% hijab with the one with the slit. That's all there is a slit on the eyes at an amusement park. And I saw another group of them in all black in the middle of August at Virginia Beach, Virginia. Needless to say, it was hot there. And they were at the beach with their kids and their husbands, and the kids and the husbands were dressed like they were at Disney World. But
exactly.
the women,
there you go. That's the liberation of women for you.
I mean, I saw this one lady go up and she lifted the skirt, the dress part up. It was all one piece, but she lifted the bottom part up so she could dip her foot in the ocean. You know, it was absolutely sickening. And plus, it makes normal people feel bad. I mean, I don't want to see that.
No, and you know, this is on a human scale. This is really sad because there are lots of Muslims that would like to be ex-Muslims, but they can't because they are in a social and actually a judicial prison by this ideology, and well, it's actually sad for those people that crave freedom to be born into this sickening, oppressive, fascist ideology that Islam is.
Let me just announce something in the chat room that Ralph Kirkhart put in there. Senior Chief Special Warfare Operator SEAL Edward C. Byers Jr. was awarded the Medal of Honor during a White House ceremony February 29, 2016, for his efforts during a hostage rescue while deployed in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. In 2012, he is the 11th living service member to be awarded the Medal of Honor for bravery displayed in Afghanistan. God bless you, sir, and thank you for your service.
Absolutely. God bless.
All right, let's go to, it looks like the president is hinting around on Twitter, and of course the media blew up after this, that maybe he used some really good verbiage because of the $700 and $716 billion gotten to rebuild our military. Many jobs are created, and our military is again rich. Building a great border wall with drugs, poison, and enemy combatants pouring into our country is all about national defense. Build the wall through the M. And everybody.
Yes, and the funny thing, I don't know if he started reading my tweets. This was tweeted out on March the 25th, but on the 24th, I replied to Ann Coulter and Diana West that if real Donald Trump wants to turn defeat into victory, he would put the USACE, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, to work for the newfound money, say with building a wall, defense project worth defending.
I'd rather
the day after he tweets this, and it's absolutely priceless.
I'd rather see him use the Army to do it than the Corps of Engineers, because the Army needs the experience. But the Corps of Engineers are mainly civilians, but they can build walls, boy. They build some hell of a dams.
They are expert at solving the unsolvable and putting up big projects in no time. So
that's true.
I mean, go for it.
I agree.
This is actually a defense project,
and it is when you think about it.
Absolutely.
You know?
And I mean, it's the president's prerogative to spend the money that's allocated by Congress. So I dare Congress to try stop him. They can't, and there is not a judge in America that would in the Supreme Court that would rule against the president and for Congress, because it's a clear mandate by the president to spend the money that's allocated by Congress. And I mean, he just signed their $1.3 trillion bill, and I'd be damned if he shouldn't get something for that effort. And I have an idea that that was his plan all along. I think you can see now that with this Congress, he won't get all the money he needs, so he needs to get the money in through other routes.
All right, Norway, that's all the time we have. Any final comments, and how can people reach you?
Great show. I am at Norway for Trump on Twitter and Gab.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everybody for listening live, and anybody who listened to the podcast. We love you too. Kat in Arizona, thank you very much. Kat upped her game in the Patreon program. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. on Facebook, Berg's Eye View on Twitter. Antonio Sabato coming up next on the Wayne Dupree program. Rocky, we're out of here. God bless.
God bless.
Cold War Radio Eagle 1 cleared for takeoff.
Cold War Radio Eagle 1. Baltimore bound man. Destination We Are America Radio Studio. Rocky out.
Hey Rocky, hit the green button.
Eagle 1, this is Godzilla, coming around you to light the bad guys up with a Maverick.
Roger, over.